The Munsters wasn't supposed to work. It was too weird, too risky, too much like stealing from yourself, but somehow, it became a ratings monster. And behind the scenes, torture devices disguised as costumes, blackballed actresses, a lead actor getting drunk just to wave at children. Here are 20 insane facts about the Munsters you didn't know, and they're stranger than the monsters themselves. That's when Universal Studios played with fire. Number 1. They literally stole from themselves, and it worked. In 1964, Universal Studios owned the copyrights to Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman. They'd been running old horror films on TV since the 1950s with massive success, so when CBS needed a monster sitcom to compete with the Addams Family, Universal just borrowed their own monster. No licensing fees, no legal battles, just pure corporate self-plagiarism that somehow became television gold. The result? The Munsters consistently crushed the Addams Family in ratings. Sometimes crime pays, especially when you're stealing from yourself. Number 2. The creators went from Beaver Cleaver to Frankenstein, with zero experience. Joe Connolly and Bob Mosher created Leave It to Beaver, wholesome family values, white picket fences, apple pie America. Their next project, a family of literal monsters living in suburbia. The leap from the Cleaver household to 1313 Mockingbird Lane was so insane, you'd think they'd lost their minds. But they applied the exact same philosophy, write what you know. Apparently what they knew was that all families are monsters, some just hide it better. Number 3. They recycled the Beaver house and nobody noticed. Universal was so cheap, they used the exact same house from Leave It to Beaver for the Munsters. Same structure, same layout. They just added a stone wall and some gothic trim. The wholesome suburban home where Wally and Beaver learned life lessons became Monster Central, with some creative set dressing. Talk about recycling. The irony, America's most normal family and America's most abnormal family lived in the exact same house. Make of that what you will. Number 4. The original pilot was completely different, and in color. The unaired pilot featured Joan Marshall as Phoebe Munster, basically a Morticia Addams clone with black hair and tight dresses. David Derman played Eddie like a feral werewolf child. CBS took one look and panicked. Too similar to the Addams Family, too scary for kids, too everything. They scrapped almost the entire cast, changed the mother's name to Lily, and reshot everything. The original pilot exists somewhere in Universal's vaults, a lost piece of monster television history. Number 5. Universal refused to pay for color, and accidentally created a classic. The studio refused to spend an extra $10,000 per episode for color filming. This wasn't an artistic choice, it was pure cheapness. But that black and white photography became the Munsters' signature look. The shadows, the contrast, the classic horror movie aesthetic, all because Universal's accountants said no to color. Sometimes the best creative decisions are made by bean counters, and things were about to get weirder. Where Hollywood glamour met monster makeup disasters. Number 6. The leading man was literally tortured by his costume. Fred Gwynne's Herman costume was a medieval torture device. Asphalt pavers boots, with 4-inch soles, 40 pounds of foam rubber padding, 2 hours in makeup every day. He developed severe back pain, lost 10 pounds in 1 month, and perspired so heavily they had to give him salt tablets to prevent dehydration. The producers rented a compressed air tank just to blow cool air down his collar between takes. America's most beloved monster dad was slowly dying inside that rubber suit. The man who made children laugh was suffering like Frankenstein's actual monster. Number 7. A Hollywood glamour queen was forced into monster makeup to pay medical bills. Yvonne DiCarlo was a legitimate movie star, exotic beauty, leading lady in dozens of films. Then her husband, stuntman Bob Morgan, was permanently disabled in a grisly accident on the set of How the West Was Won. MGM refused to take responsibility. Medical bills mounted. Legal fees soared. DiCarlo was desperate. When Universal offered her Lily Munster, she was embarrassed by the thought of doing television, but her agents and her bank book told her the same thing. You need the part, and you need the money. Sometimes even movie stars have to become monsters to survive. The co-stars were terrified of their new leading lady, until she proved them wrong. Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis heard Yvonne DiCarlo was joining the cast, and freaked out. She was a bona fide Hollywood star. They were television comedians. We didn't think she would fit in with our brand of comedy, Al Lewis later admitted. They were intimidated, defensive, ready for disaster. But when DiCarlo arrived on set, she nailed the comedy immediately. We were wrong, Lewis said. She was wonderful. Sometimes reverse snobbery works both ways. Number 9. The glamour queen became a set diva, and everyone hated it. While DiCarlo's performance was perfect, her behind-the-scenes behavior was a nightmare. She kept to herself in her trailer, held up production with endless hair and makeup adjustments, and went through 5 different hairdressers during the show's 2-year run. The cast and crew were constantly frustrated by her diva demands. She may have been wonderful on camera, but between pure Hollywood attitude. Even monsters have limits when it comes to prima donna behavior. Number 10. They held the first Marilyn hostage, then destroyed her career. Beverly Owen played Marilyn in the first 13 episodes. She was miserable in Los Angeles, homesick for New York, trapped by a 7-year contract she signed without a lawyer. The 25-year-old spent most of her time on set in tears. Finally, Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis marched into the producer's office and said, "You either let her go or we're all walking." Universal let her go, then blackballed her from Hollywood. She never worked in television again. They freed her from the contract, then made sure she'd never need another one. When accidents became television gold. America's favorite monster dad got drunk on national television. During the 1964 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Fred Gwynne appeared as Herman Munster alongside Al Lewis. Gwynne later confessed to TV Guide that he had to get bombed so I could say hello to the little kiddies. For 40 America's most wholesome monster was literally liquored up while waving at children on national television. The irony was perfect. A drunk Frankenstein spreading holiday cheer to families across the country. The man in the monster suit was more monstrous than the monster he was playing. Number 12. The show's recycled scripts drove the star to creative despair. As the monsters became a hit, the scripts became formulaic. The same jokes, the same situations, the same puns, episode after episode. Fred Gwynne, a serious actor, grew increasingly frustrated with the repetitive material. He felt creatively stifled, professionally embarrassed, artistically dead. The man who brought Herman to life was slowly dying inside. Success was killing him softly with rubber suits and recycled gags. Number 13. Grandpa lied about his age for the entire series. Al Lewis was terrified of losing the grandpa role if producers discovered he was younger than Yvonne DiCarlo, so he lied about his birth date, claiming to be born in 1910 instead of 1923. He maintained this deception for decades. When he died, newspapers reported he was 95 years old. He was actually 82. Even in death, Grandpa Munster's greatest performance was pretending to be older than he really was. Number 14. The Munster car got the Batman treat. George Barris, the man who built the Batmobile, also created the Munster coach. He used 3 Model T Ford bodies to construct the 18-foot-long Munster mobile, hand-formed brass radiator, blood-red velvet upholstery, total cost, $18,000. It took 21 days to complete. The Munsters got the same respect as Batman. Their car was built by the same master craftsman who created The Dark Knight's Ride. Number 15. A child actor was deemed too lycanthropic for television. In the original pilot, Nate Happy Derman played Eddie Munster like an actual werewolf. Growling, clawing, feral behavior that terrified network executives. They replaced him with Butch Patrick, who played Eddie like a pointy-eared version of Beaver Cleaver. Same supernatural kid, completely different energy. Sometimes being too good at playing a monster is exactly the wrong thing for a monster show. Casting directors would say Herman Munster for that. Are you crazy? Whenever his name came up for dramatic roles, he became typecast as a monster in a rubber suit. The role that made him famous also made him unemployable as a serious actor. It wasn't until he was out of the Munsters that he realized the show had hurt him a lot as far as acting. His ex-wife later revealed. Number 17. They fired Marilyn for being too old. At 30, when Universal made the 1966 movie Munster, Go, they decided Pat Priest was too old to reprise her role as Marilyn. She was approaching 30. They replaced her with 17-year-old Debbie Watson. Priest started crying when she found out. Even Al Lewis thought it was wrong. In monster television, apparently 30 was ancient. Hollywood ageism at its most ridiculous. Number 18. The child star descended into 40 years of addiction. After the Munsters ended, Butch Patrick continued working as a child actor, but by 1974, life had taken a dark turn. He spent 40 years out in the ozone, as a functioning alcoholic and drug addict. The cute werewolf kid became a cautionary tale about child stardom. He eventually got sober and now speaks openly about addiction. Sometimes the real monsters are the ones we create ourselves. A guest star's battle with booze isolated him from Hollywood. Paul Lynde appeared as Dr. Dudley in 3 episodes. The beloved comic actor was an openly gay man in an era when that could destroy career. Racked with insecurities and fear of failure, Lind struggled with alcoholism most of his life. His fiery temper when drinking cost him work and isolated him from friends. He died of a heart attack in 1982 at age 55. Even the guests on The Munsters carried real-life demons. The cast is almost gone, and the survivors are fighters. Fred Gwynne died of pancreatic cancer in 19. Al Lewis passed in 2006. Yvonne DiCarlo died of heart failure in 2000. Only Butch Patrick and Pat Priest survive, both cancer survivors themselves. They still appear at conventions as TV's first family of fright. The Munsters are mostly gone, but their legacy lives on in syndication and in the memories of fans who still believe that sometimes being different is exactly what makes you special. The Munsters proved that sometimes the best art comes from the worst circumstances. If you're into strange Hollywood secrets and the chaos behind classic television, hit subscribe, because every show has monsters hiding behind the scenes. Some just wear better makeup than others.